It is a little weird to me that like it probably makes sense, but that the decks go on the inside and all both decks discard to the outside, which means they discard to different sides. Treacherous trying to show off for his local meta. Crow trying to put unicorns on the board.
Alright, so I guess I'm going to go ahead and get this thing started. Bonk. And we're live. We've got a game versus Crow of Games and Treacherous. Uh, Unicorn versus Crane. Crow doesn't seem to be terribly interested in putting his deck out, though. Don't know if that's a sign or not.
He said he had to grab some tea.
Ah.
He had to get in the right mood for this. Nice mug of warm tea. And then he'll try to get on the board for the unicorns, who I don't believe have won a match this tournament yet. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but that's entirely possible.
Yeah, I believe last I saw they were 0 and 2. Let me get a pop out Twitch chat going here. Get him nice and shuffled up. Is he looking for a randomizer? That's my guess.
Yeah, probably.
Like moving his nice, like hovering everything.
How do we determine first player?
He's trying to see what Crow's got going on. A whole lot of nothing.
Whole lot of zilch.
This is actually the best unicorn strategy that I've seen. Just don't even show up.
I mean, that'll definitely hold up your record of no wins for sure.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen unicorn play yet, so that's gonna be interesting.
I haven't either. I've played one game of it in with some of my IRL friends because one of my IRL friends is an old unicorn player from the old game, and none of us were terribly impressed with their showing, which is interesting because they've got some really impactful looking cards, but they just don't have the ability to get the critical mass of dudes out to make them impactful. So it's a little weird.
Yeah, I think they're definitely on my like watch list because if they get a little bit more support, I think it'll push them over a much needed edge.
Yeah, absolutely. They're treading a thin line of not great and like very scary.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they can do at Worlds. I know uh Dodge Pong, Benjamin Torrell out of Atlanta. He's there, Hanamoto from Gen Con, and he seems to think that he can do a lot with them. So I hope he's right.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to see how he does it at Worlds for sure. Oh, here we go. Here comes Crow of Games.
Yeah, it's one of those things that every cavalry card that gets printed just makes Unicorn better.
Yeah, it does make it a little interesting that the magistrate that they got is not Cav, but I think she'll be pretty decent even without it.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm interested to see how they perform throughout the year as well as they start to get more and more support,
Hmm.
just as more cards get printed. Do we know what they're doing for structure for this game yet? Will they stick with the traditional store champions and regionals, with regionals being part of like the Kote series, which will crown Hanamoto's?
We're actually not terribly sure. The only thing that their OP support currently mentions is um, just the Kotais. It doesn't mention store championships or regionals or anything like that. So the current speculation by most of the player base, to my knowledge, is just that regionals will be Kotais, and then the nationals and Gen Con will be Grand Kotais because they mentioned those as well. Oh no, I totally agree, Travis, that Cab might push her over into being ridiculous, but she's, I think, I think she might be a little underpowered without Cab.
That's the
quite,
best roll.
quite the clunky rolling. Oh, I guess I don't get the. Can
All right, so it looks like Treacherous has won the roll and opting to go second for the fate.
Okay, there we go. Yep, that's a pretty standard choice. Going second seems to be better in three core, just like it was in single core. Though I don't think it's as polarized as it was in single core.
Yeah, I don't see a huge reason to not take the fate turn one quite yet. We got Riga in chat now, so maybe he can confirm. Has Unicorn won a game yet, Riga? Because I believe they were 0-2 last time he posted stats. I believe.
You want to stop me, but you have failed. I've got to find her before he does something terrible to her.
Just taking care of our mulligans here.
Oh, looks like Raga was just showing up to
Yeah, just to say hello.
just to say, "Hey, I'm here," and host me for a wonderful 3 viewers.
Whoops.
So it looks like the Unicorn's mulligan was actually pretty conservative. He only mulliganed 1 card from each hand, whereas the Crane's mulligan on the Dynasty side was 3. So maybe we can see a good start out of Unicorn and see what that looks like.
Did Crane not mulligan from conflict?
I don't think so.
All right, that's always terrifying.
Yeah, that is always very scary.
That the snap keep decision is not what you want to see.
So we got a Moto Horde, Moto Youth, Giver of Gifts, and another Moto Youth. I believe this is the card that he mulliganed. So, I mean, 2 Moto Youth certainly seems strong, especially against Crane, who don't have good military skill. So they can crush almost any province just for the 2 fate that it would cost them. So I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we see like 2 Moto Youths and a Giver of Gifts. Um, Giver of Gifts is a very potentially powerful character if you've got high impact attachments. Um,
What do you think Unicorn is looking to splash? Do you think they're looking to splash Dragon just to take advantage of that Giver of Gifts?
I think Dragon is absolutely a good option. I think Crane is a decent option. Moving around above question is certainly very interesting, and duelist training as well. Um, Yeah, I think Unicorn actually has a pretty good amount of things they can splash and feel pretty decent about it, just because some of their utility characters are very versatile. So the Crane player has a Doji Whisperer, just a blank 0-3, decent stats for her cost. And then his other three characters are all very impactful. Um, Doji Challenger is probably one of the better 3 drops in the game. A 3-3 for 3 with Harpoon, very powerful action. Like, for instance, against Crow of Games, he could use this Doji Challenger to attack with and then pull in the Moto Youth in a political challenge to make him feel really bad. Um,
So here with Crane not showing a lot of military strength in the opening, do you think if you're a Unicorn, do you look to break that Doji Challenger province just to get it out?
Oh, I absolutely think so. I think Doji Challenger will be much more of a scary card for you than Kakita Asami. She is very strong if they plan to go for any kind of dishonor pressure, but she's got relatively low stats for her cost, so she's not terribly scary.
Wow, Unicorn with the full greed here.
Full greed, but the Crane did a bit of a moderate bid, so the honor fluctuation is not terribly high, and they'll both be relatively even on cards still, with the slight edge going to Crow of Games here. But back to the Guest of Honor. She's one of the more powerful cards. She just says your opponent can't play the game during a conflict that she's involved in, which is very strong. Um, Obviously, she's heavily leaned politically, so she's probably not going to get in the way of too many military fights that Crow of Games puts out. But she might if Treacherous feels the need to stop Crow from playing events.
I'm guessing with Crow digging and not playing that second Moto Youth, I think he's looking for like some high value attachments to take use of that Giver of Gifts.
Yeah, potentially. I think more than likely the pass to gain the fate was more to just not have Treacherous gain it because Treacherous couldn't buy either of his remaining characters. Um, the second Moto Youth wouldn't have been terribly relevant if he does have some attachments though. Here comes Spyglass, one of the best reasons to splash Unicorn. It's a fantastic attachment. It's a +1 to political strength, but more importantly, it draws you a card whenever that character assigns to or moves to a conflict. Um, so it replaces itself after one conflict. If you can keep it in play for one turn, it'll actually draw a card, which is unusual for any card in the game. And with Unicorn Stronghold, if they put it on a cavalry guy, even if the guy is bowed, they can move him in just to get that card draw.
We can also swing first with Moto Youth to get the card draw, and then move it over with Giver of Gifts.
That's also true.
Then
Absolutely.
it sticks around till next turn with the Fate, assuming it doesn't get removed from the game somehow.
Yep. We see a Height of Fashion, thus solidifying Giver of, or Guest of Honor's ability to basically solo any province with a political challenge without much trouble. Uh, it's just a high stat attachment. It doesn't really do anything else than that, but it is very strong. He now has an 8 political stat character. Uh, Very powerful.
Doesn't do much else besides give you 4 freaking political.
Yep. Not that you would need it to do much more else.
All right, yeah, here we go.
So yeah, it looks
Void
like
Ring's gonna be interesting to clear that Guest of Honor.
yeah, absolutely. It's a little dangerous to commit that hard to something before you get a chance to attack because you know that Crow is probably not making a political attack on his first go. So this could be interesting. Only having this for one turn feels pretty bad. So the Moto Youth is a 3 military. This is the first military conflict of this round, and with Shameful Display, if Treacherous doesn't get in front of it, it will break. I can't imagine that we'll probably see the Doji Whisperer just to honor it and dishonor the Moto Youth. It'll also mean that unless Crow plays a card, he won't be breaking the province either. So. Oh, he's actually going to stand in front of it with his Guest of Honor, so
Wow.
that Crow can't play events. I mean, events are one way to gain military strength. Bonsai is a very popular card, so I can see some justification there. I think it's a bit wasteful
Yeah,
of the height of fashion for sure. Um,
you're giving up a lot here because unless you have something else in hand that you can play at zero fate, like an assassinate maybe, it's gonna be rough here because then you won't get to use the guest of honor
yeah, so
to actually solo break anything.
yeah, and like even with the guest of honor, it's still only a one political with one glory, so it's sitting at two, whereas Moto Youth is still at two as well. So even though he's not breaking the province, he's still winning the conflict. Treacherous needs to do something in order to get even some use out of this, because if Crow of Games still wins, the guest of honor is gone, so it effectively did nothing, and he spent a total of 7 fate on it, which is pretty big. We see the Born in War coming out from Crow. It's a very powerful attachment. Um, so the unclaimed rings are currently 4. There are 3 different statuses a ring can have. It's claimed, unclaimed, and contested. So the Void Ring is currently contested, but because it's the first conflict, that means we've got 4 other rings not there. So that gives them a whopping 4 more military for this conflict. Very powerful. So we're
So with
back. Good.
Born into War, the cavalry character only, is that a play effect or is that an ongoing effect? So could the Giver of Gifts move it over or not?
No, that is a constant check. So if that ever tries to move to something else, uh, it'll just fall off. For instance, like Calling in Favors would try to pull it and then it would just get pitched. Giver of Gifts can only target it if it has another cavalry person to move to. Um,
Okay.
so we've got the Force Shame coming out. So this, I mean, Treacherous did have a surefire defense, which makes it even more weird to me that he didn't do the Doji Whisperer instead. Travis did point out that Charge is a card that Crow of Games could have had, but I don't think this province breaking is that big a deal to worry about him charging in a Moto Horde on. Um, but it does look like he'll save the province with that, since Crow can't play any events, and he doesn't have any fate left to put any other threats out. Um, Shameful displays just target a guy if he's either dishonor him or bow him. Because Moto Youth is already dishonored, he can't choose that. Um, it must have a courtier, but both the Doji Whisperer and Guest of Honor are courtiers as well.
Yeah, so we're seeing why that Guest of Honor was moved in, even though it's a pretty significant value hit. It was necessary to guarantee the win.
Yeah, absolutely. It does guarantee that he doesn't lose the fate on his Guest of Honor. Um, I still think it was greedy, personally. I think the Whisperer would have been sufficient. If Crow of Games charges in the Moto Horde there, I think I'd be okay with that, actually, just to use the Guest of Honor to break a province. But we'll see what he has in store. Or at least not have playing the Height of Fashion. I would agree with this play much more if the Guest of Honor didn't have a Height of Fashion on it.
Yeah, it's a lot of, like you said earlier, a lot of fate tied up in a single card, or I guess a single unit.
Though, if Treacherous has something interesting, he could try to do a military water with his Doji Whisperer to straighten the Guest of Honor, I suppose. That would feel a little bit weird, but it is something he could do. Um, More likely, I think he'd probably go for Fire, maybe, to threaten dishonoring the Giver of Gifts, as that makes him from a 2-3 down to a 1-2, which is a pretty potent difference. Um, Ring of Earth is also always good. All right, looks like he is going to go for the water to straighten his guest of honor.
Going political here though, so he's not getting super greedy with it.
Nope, he's just looking to straighten it for the defense so that the giver of gifts can't make an effective attack. But the giver of gifts will most likely still make an attack just to pull off the spyglass. Or he might defend here since he flipped his own shameful display. And as I pointed out already, giver of gifts has 2 glories, so that makes him a 4/5, which is very strong. I think we're going back to pre-conflict and moving the spyglass over, which makes sense. You definitely want to do that before your opponent declares an attack. Um, Good sports letting that happen. Definitely changes things quite a bit. And here we can see Spyglass doing an amazing amount of work already. Crow of Games having, is it 10 cards or is it 9? I think it's 9 cards to Treacherous's 5. So the card advantage for Crow is pretty real here.
Well, Crow's drawn 7 just this first round from the 5 honor bid, and now Spyglass triggering twice.
Yep.
Versus Crane's 3. Treacherous has drawn 3 cards from the honor bid, and that's it.
At this point, he's 6 to 2. So I'm not sure what Treacherous could pull out here to swing this back in his favor. There aren't a whole lot of things that can swing that big of a difference in political.
Looks like Crow is making sure there's nothing else he wants to do.
Yeah, potentially. Unfortunately, the Unicorn Stronghold only does military. Not that I see too much value in the Moto youth coming in now that it doesn't have a spyglass on it. It looks like we do see the pass. So Crow of Games gets the water ring here. So they're going to be tied for the favor unless somebody has a really weird trick I don't know about. So no one gets the favor first turn. We'll end the turn with a Giver of Gifts with a Spyglass and Honored, and a Guest of Honor with Height of Fashion and Honored. Both players losing 1 honor because Shameful Display is very good. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, Crow's looking pretty good for his next turn with another Moto Youth ready to come out, and then I've got to imagine he's seen at least 1 charge by now.
Oh, I would have to agree with you. I would have to say there's very little chance that he doesn't have a charge. He's already seen 12 cards, I think, total. So, or is it 11? It's 11.
It's 11, yeah.
But yeah, still, it's a 4th of his deck. I'm sure he's running 3 charges. The odds are pretty decent that he's got a charge.
Yeah, it's something you have to at least respect at this point if you're Treacherous.
Hooray for the physics engine that is Tabletop Simulator not playing well with stacks of things. There we go.
Yeah, see, now we're in an awkward spot where we have this 8, or it's 9 now, political person and guest of honor versus what, 6? So you can't necessarily solo break there unless you
Yeah.
have some more tricks up your sleeve.
I'm a
So
little
not getting the value you hope for out of 7 Fate, I don't think.
I'm a little surprised to see both the youth and the horde getting discarded there, especially with Way of the Unicorn. Youth is very strong if you're first player, so um, Way of the Unicorn is keep first player if you would lose it. So Crow gets to maintain the advantage of being first player, being that he gets to make the first conflict, and some of his cards also benefit, like the Moto Youth, for being first. So
Yeah, it seems like a very weird decision. It Does that signal that he doesn't have charge yet?
potentially, he did flip some good cards. The Poet is a fantastic 3-drop in my opinion. It's effectively a 3/3 if they defend. 2/2 is not great on its own, but that ability is very powerful. Um, and the Utaku infantry is also very powerful if you can get that swarm strategy going. Considering he discarded his Moto Youth, so I don't know that we'll see the infantry do a whole lot this turn, but potentially next turn. He has another one of his courtiers. It is Ide Trader. If someone moves into a conflict, he can either gain a fate or draw a card, which is potentially very powerful. So you see kind of more of the unicorn economy with cards and fate. And then the Border Rider, one of my favorite 2-drops. It's a 2/1/1, which isn't bad, isn't great for stats, but he can ready himself, which is good because Bow is very strong, and it's good because it means he can attack twice if he really wants to, or she, I guess, rather.
Yeah, the challenger is almost certainly going to come out from Crane this turn.
I would have to imagine so because he's already got a pretty big political character. He needs some kind of military strength, I would say. Seeing another guest of honor here, I think, is a little bit awkward. It is a very strong card, but it's a really expensive card as well. I'm a little surprised not to see a fate on the Doji Challenger.
Yeah, I am as well.
Maybe he wants to put a fate on Asami instead, so that he's got a political character for next turn. Um, I actually also wouldn't be terribly surprised to see him pass potentially, and just be down 2 characters to 3.
But he doesn't need to play a Sami with the Fate to make sure he has a political character for next turn with the Guest of Honor sitting there, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I doubt Crow is going to be able to break both of those provinces, so he can always bring one of them in next turn if he needs a political character next turn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe he's just worried about Crow getting several units in and then having a charge for, I don't even know what you would eat a trader. It's not. It feels weird to discard that 4-drop. The horde, if you had charge and were planning on charging someone out.
Yeah, absolutely. So we see the infantry coming out. He is a 1/1 by himself, and obviously he just gets bigger. So I mean, even if he's just with one other person, he's a 2/2 for 1, which is powerful in its own right. So not terribly surprised.
Looks
Here's
like
the
he will
Asami.
play the Asami, and I can only assume he's going to fade it, which is why he didn't fade the Doji Challenger.
Wow, no fate on her either, it looks like. So he's seems like he's
Very
okay with the
interesting.
board resetting next turn. Which I don't necessarily blame him. The only thing that Crow is going to have, unless he pulls out something, is the Poet. Though he does have 3 fate, and we do know that he's splashing Lion. For Greater Glory is a potentially potent card here, as he's got 2 Bushi. If he could pull that off, that would be very powerful. The Lion card I'm referring to is 3 fate. When a province is destroyed during a military conflict, each of your participating Bushi get 1 fate. So it looks like Crow's still on the bid relatively high plan. Treacherous is going down to bidding 1. So He's trying to put on the honor pressure. I mean, Crow is down to 5. It's not out of the question. That's interesting. It looks like somehow Crow might have drawn a card from Treacherous's deck. I did see a weird visual blip. Um, I just thought maybe it was a glitch, but it does seem like somehow that had happened. Um,
That's good tech. That's how you win as Unicorn.
you just draw from your opponent's deck in addition to yours.
Yeah, you get a couple Crane cards in there when you're splashing Lion. Everything starts looking way better. He hit deal instead of draw.
An easy enough mistake to make.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting here when the board resets for Crane, just because he's put so much fate into these characters in terms of just their initial cost to get them on the board. To have value for a single turn just feels like an interesting decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the Doji Challenger when she is much better when you're going first. So seeing at least one fate on her would have been nice. Just if Crow doesn't have the way of the unicorn, being the first conflict, like, all right, here I'm going to attack you with my Doji Challenger and pull one of your guys into a conflict that they're basically worthless in. So um, I'm a little surprised not to see one fate go on somebody, but Treacherous probably has some amount of cards in his hand that cost one. So
Correct, yeah. There's 6 cards that he has that are impacting his decision that we don't know about. So if you're Crow, you gotta be racking your brain trying to figure out what those are.
I definitely feel like Crow has a bit of an advantage here. He can put forth a pretty decent military force, and Treacherous only has uh, a total of 5 military showing. Looks like he is going to do his um, Artisan Academy before the conflict. It'll just flip the top card of his deck, and he can just play that card as though it's in his hand currently. Way of the Crane is certainly a good card to see for that. It just honors a Crane character. So the Doji Challenger is a 2 glory 3/3, very powerful. And Asami is also a 2 glory character, so they're both very impactful when honored.
Yeah, I've got to imagine that Honor's probably going to go on the Doji Challenger during a military conflict.
Yeah, I would say that's fairly likely, just to get some kind of a military force out there. Um,
Yeah, he's got a little bit of political power already.
I'm not terribly surprised he's also playing that before the conflict, and there it is on the Doji Challenger, making her a 5/5, very potent. Um, can't imagine we'll see too much more before the first conflict. Um, I have a feeling Crow Games might go for a water challenge here, just because Treacherous has all of his characters have 0 fate, so the water challenge is very powerful, just because it gets rid of one of his characters unless he defends with all of them, which would also be relatively good for Crow, just because he wouldn't be able to punch back. So um, outside of that, Fire Ring is always nice. Dishonoring those characters with high glory, getting them back to ordinary or even dishonored if he can, is very nice. The Air Ring would also be nice, just to cushion your honor a little bit since you're down to 5. I don't think it's quite necessary yet, but not a bad idea. I can see
It does have the fate on it as well. I guess most of these, fire and air, both would get you the fate.
Yep. I can see a justification for pretty much everything but Void at this point. Looks like he's going to choose the fire, try and lower the impact of the current characters. Political seems like a bit of an odd choice to me, given Treacherous' board is very superior in political. But he could just be trying to bait out a strong defense from Treacherous. We'll see what he assigns with. Probably just the Trader, if I had to guess, or the Gift Giver rather. I mean, the Gift Giver is no slouch. Treacherous will have to defend with something decent in order to have this not break potentially.
And there's a lot of potential to get mileage out of the Spyglass here as well this turn.
Oh, absolutely.
Not that Crow really needs more of a card advantage, but there's no reason not to.
Yep. Nope. It's free effectively, so it's very very easy to just do it and not worry.
Yeah, because he could potentially get 3 cards here, right? If he moves the Spyglass over to the Warrior Poet.
Theoretically,
uses
except Spyglass's
Plains.
limit twice per round.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yep.
My bad. Read the cards.
No, it's fine. So Treacherous really should be flipping his province before he decides to defend who to defend with, because it is relevant. There we see the Spyglass. There we go. Now Chris pointed out to him. So we see an Ancestral Lands, I believe. So Rally the Cause. Sorry.
Wow, that actually works out for him pretty well here.
Yeah, I think it does. I think Treacherous might actually leave it as political because, I mean, the Giver of Gifts is still a 4 military, which outside of Doji Challenger, Treacherous doesn't really have much to defend with on that. So, I won't be surprised if he just doesn't react with Rally the Cause.
Yeah, definitely good one to hit. Even if it doesn't react here, you popped it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
You're not going to go all in on a military conflict and get your back broken.
Yep, it's actually one of the reasons why I personally don't really care for the water provinces. They go off once and can be super impactful, or they can be like this situation where they could go off once and don't, and then they just don't do anything besides B4 province strength for the rest of the game. Not to say that they aren't good, but it's why I prefer some of the other provinces personally. So it looks like he did bait out the defense on the Guest of Honor. So this Guest of Honor is not seeing a whole lot of power given what he invested in him in turn 1. I mean, successful defenses are definitely good, but I feel like breaking a province would have probably been more use out of the height of fashion. Oh,
Travis brings up a good point where we could be looking at a good omen here with the low bid from Crane.
Yeah, absolutely. Bidding low and having any of these characters could be good omened at this point. It is still interesting to me because you could have put a fate on a guy anyway. But we do see the splash from Treacherous being Scorpion. So it seems to be a fairly popular splash for Crane. They get some good cards out of it. Forged Edict plus Voice of Honor is very powerful in tandem. Plus Guest of Honor, your opponent just never plays events. I do feel like this Fiery Madness is a bit early.
Because Giver of Gifts can just move it off, correct?
He can do that, but he's also already losing. So at this point, he's looking at it like, all right, I've already lost this conflict, so I'm just going to move off the Spyglass and let you win, because there's no way I'm going to win it anyway. So Treacherous just invested a card into a conflict he was already winning, and Crow is like, all right, I guess, sure. And he's going to lose it already, so... Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Treacherous just gave up both his splash and a card, a very impactful card. Fiery Madness is a very strong card to have, even though he was already winning by 3 on the defense, and there isn't any real reason to play cards while winning on the defense. It looks like he's also... I don't think he actually can. No, he doesn't. Even with the Fiery Madness, the Giver of Gifts should still be a 3 political, so he can't use his Stronghold. I don't know why he would in the first place, but so that was a lot of investment on Treacherous for already having won a conflict.
Yeah, it's a potent card, and it's one of his 6 cards at this point.
Yeah,
taking him down to 5 in a game where his cards are probably going to need to be used a little more judiciously.
Yeah. On top of the stronghold not even being able to supposed to be used there, I think Crow is not sad to see it. I'm really not sure why Treacherous was so big on winning that conflict so heavily. I'm not sure what his goal was with all that investment on that attack, on that defense rather. Um, we'll see if he's got some kind of a plan. It just surprises me a little bit.
Yeah, because I mean, with that defense, I mean, we do have 7 fate spent on this guest of honor that has now only stopped Crow from advancing his win condition. It has not helped Treacherous advance his at all.
All right, so here we see an Earth Ring. He gets both a Fate, and he will hopefully get a card out of it, which he needs. He's basically infinitely behind on the card advantage for sure. Um, looks like we're probably going to see military, so I'd imagine the Doji Challenger is what is going to attack here. So this leaves Crow with an interesting decision to make on the defense. If he defends with nobody, the Doji Challenger will bring in one and he'll have half his guys. If he defends with one guy, Doji will probably bring in the other, even if it makes him lose, just so he has no one to defend or attack with. So here we see fertile lands, I believe, fertile fields. So just further increasing Crow's card draw. It seems to me like he's probably getting a bunch of diminishing returns on his card draw at this point. I think Manicured Gardens would be much more beneficial to him, seeing as he already has a bunch of cards. But maybe he doesn't draw this many cards all the time, so maybe Fertile Fields is right in other situations.
Yeah, I'm guessing Fertile Fields is probably going to be a little better in some other matchups where he's concerned about that dishonor victory, and so he's bidding not as aggressively.
All right, so here we see Cavalry Reserves coming out. I personally prefer this card on the attack. I mean, he will guarantee that he successfully defends this conflict, but that's a lot to invest on a defense. Whereas if you used it on an attack, like these 3 characters coming out on an attack would guarantee him a province. So it seems a little bit greedy to me to use this on a defense, especially when he's got so many cards in his hand that the Earth Ring would seem very low impact on him specifically. Treacherous was probably doing the Earth Ring to mostly to draw a card. To be honest, Travis, I think the Cavalry Reserves is so low impact on this defense that even if I had a Voice of Honor as Treacherous, I wouldn't play it. I would save it for the next one, where he uses it on an attack to break a province instead. But that's just me.
Yeah, my only thinking is that he just has all 3 of those in hand and is looking to burn through them, because he's not going to likely get another challenge here.
Yeah, that's entirely possible.
Gonna pull the poet in.
Yep. That's kind of why I would have, especially with the Cavalry Reserves as Crow, I probably would have just not defended and either let him take that province unopposed, so that you can get a Cavalry Reserves attack in. But
right, yeah, because this breaks anything.
So this is he did draw a card from the Spyglass, because even though he didn't choose to move it in, that still works. So that's cute there, but I think Treacherous actually won out on this conflict very, very much. Crow used a Cavalry Reserves and 5 defenders on an Earth Ring that wasn't going to impact his hand that much.
Yeah, that's an interesting decision. I think we're seeing a little bit of overcommitment on both sides to these conflicts.
Yeah, absolutely. Another point I did bring up uh, for Greater Glory from the Lion Splash. He almost certainly has one in hand. It's a 1-cost event. It adds 1 fate to every Bushi. Imagine if Crow didn't defend here. He attacked with like his Warrior Poet, did Cav reserves to bring in these 3, guarantee a province break, and then have these 3 characters plus that guy for 2 turns. That would be insane value. It would basically guarantee 2 provinces broken with 4 fate, whereas this is just preventing him from losing an Earth Ring that is not terribly impactful.
Trying to figure out what they're considering here.
Yeah, I don't see what's left here to do besides pass. There's no way Treacherous can win. Oh, did he not activate his Fertile Fields yet? I don't remember. That was quite a while ago. He might not have. So he's just increasing his massive card advantage even more. He might actually get to a point where he might have to shuffle his deck and lose 5 honor, which would be pretty devastating. Unfortunately,
he's not even halfway there yet. He's fine.
Okay.
We're looking at 17 cards to 7 that have been drawn off the conflict decks.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really rough opposing this because as chat's pointing out, Asami's gonna come in on an air conflict most likely. It's gonna be unopposed.
Yep, so he's going to lose 1 from the air, 1 from Asami's ability, which is while she's in a political conflict, she can take 1 honor if you have more political skill. Considering Crow is going to have no characters after this conflict. It'll be unopposed.
Yeah,
and
the
then,
unopposed. So
yep.
a 3 honor when you're on 5 feels pretty rough. Oh, no, Travis pointing out something great. The Golden Plains Outpost can move in.
No, it can't because it'll be a political conflict. Golden Plains only works in a military conflict.
That's
so
true.
It won't. It'll still be unopposed unless he's got. I mean, Unicorn does have a 1-cost conflict character. I would have rather have seen that plus cavalry reserves to win an attack, because even on a military, the Warrior Poet plus the Utaku Infantry would have been 4 total strength to his 5. So I kind of see what he was going for there. He's fallen in battling his Doji Challenger because he won by 5 very easily. The only problem I have with that play is Doji Challenger is bowed with no fate, so it was going to die at the end of the turn without doing anything else anyway.
Yeah, unless you're playing around Good Omen, which you probably shouldn't be.
So that, yeah, no, you definitely should not be playing around Good Omen. If it happens, it happens. I think you're fine with it. At least not at that cost. Like, if you could have just defended and done the Fallen for battle, then maybe. But he committed a lot to that Fallen in battle.
Like 4 fate for the reserves and the Fallen in battle.
Yep.
And the reserves just being a potent card in and of itself.
Yeah. I think Maybe if he didn't defend with the infantry, the reserves would have been a little bit less bad, because he doesn't need anybody to play the reserves. Though he might have been thinking that the infantry is better when he's got more characters. I'm not sure. So we're seeing a lot of really heavy overcommitting, which to be honest is in Crow's favor somewhat, considering he's got way more cards to overcommit like that with. The fate expenditure on the cavalry reserves was a bit rough, but um, yeah, we'll have to see. This could still be an interesting game.
Yeah,
The
four
over
four fate does not seem worth it there.
No, absolutely not. If the Doji Challenger had 2 Fate Honor, I think it would absolutely have been worth something. I don't know about that much still, but something.
Yeah, now this 3 honor swing is gonna be rough as well. But they will get 1 back from the giver of gifts leaving play honored. Because I doubt that status is gonna change.
So we see the air ring coming out with the Asami attack to get Crow down to 2 honor, which puts him in a very treacherous spot. Assuming he doesn't have something to make it opposed.
Oh, there's another big game going down in an hour.
Yeah.
We got Mod Bowl.
Mod Ball.
All right, let's focus on this one. We got the air political conflict. Is he gonna hit? Is he gonna poke something new?
I would be surprised to see him hit anything besides Shameful Display or Fertile Fields. Fertile Fields because he's already used it, and Shameful Display because he can't, and it would break. So I feel like Shameful Display is the correct target personally, but
Yeah, you don't care about. Yeah, you don't care about the information here. I don't think. Not more than actually breaking a province for
Yeah.
free.
oh, so he hits the Unicorn province, so he actually won't lose any honor actually because Asami will get discarded, or at least I would imagine that Crow reacts with it. Yep. So it says break itself, and then your opponent must discard a character. It's a little sad to see that discarded character without any fate, but it does save him all 3 honor because Asami's not there to use her ability. Treacherous has no characters to win the conflict for air, and he doesn't have any characters to win unopposed. So that's actually really good for Crow. I think it gives him a pretty good shot of getting keeping his honor high enough to not worry about it.
Yeah, that's a pretty big swing back for Unicorn. Because still, like, this board's gonna reset.
Yep.
Except for Unicorn will keep the Warrior Poet.
Yep.
They're no longer in like dangerous honor levels.
Yep. They even gain 1 honor when the trader leaves play, so they're up to 6. I can't imagine we'll see him bidding much more than 1 for the rest of the game, though. Yeah.
Very curious of Treacherous to risk it, knowing that one of those two was most likely Endless Plains.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a risky play to make, especially considering Shameful Display would have been effectively a free province. Um, yeah, so no one gets the ring because it's unopposed on both sides. That was an excellent flip for Crow there.
Great play by Crow, deciding to organize his provinces as such.
So if we're gonna see the Good Omen, it's got to be now, and that would be really good for Treacherous. If he has the Good Omen, it would be very powerful. It doesn't look like he does. So
I'm very perplexed by his 1 bid there that turn.
yeah, I'm more perplexed by the lack of investment on his characters than I am by the 1 bid. The 1
That
bid
as
is
well.
probably just for the honor pressure, which makes a lot of sense. But not putting any fate on his characters. He ended the turn with 2 extra, so um, I'm not sure what he had planned on needing it for. Um, yeah, this is quite an interesting game with such an overcommit. We are currently 1 province to none, so technically Treacherous is winning on both honor and provinces. But
Going into turn 3.
yep, it looks like a decent unicorn still. They're winning on the board. Um, oh, yep. One end of this plane's broke. Treacherous decided to discard it. Um, and he's choosing to get rid of the traitor, which I don't blame him. Without a bunch of cavalry guys to move in, he's not that good at drawing, and he also doesn't need the draw. The fate would be nice.
The fate is the big part there, but you're paying 3 fates to get him in.
Yeah, the biggest problem. Go ahead.
I was say you'd have to move a lot to get him to get true value out of that.
Yeah, the biggest problem I see with Trader is that he has a 1 military. So the most obvious use of his ability is with Golden Plains Outpost, but that means he's in a military conflict and he's only got the 1 military. Um, so the flip from Treacherous, he got a Keeper Monk, which is always good. Brash Samurai plus Honored Guest is pretty good. Brash Samurai can actually put up a decent amount of military stats, and as we've seen, Guest of Honor is very powerful at what she does. So. And then we see the flip. Crow gets another Ide Trader. Don't know if he wanted that. And then we see the Shinjo Outrider, which is just 2/2 for 2, which is just efficient stat-wise, and he has move himself in, so he never has to commit in the first place, unless you need him to start there. A very, very strong character. I imagine we'll probably see the double Border Rider, just because the double Border Rider gives you 2 characters that can attack twice, or attack and defend, which is very strong.
Yeah, do you just double Border Rider and put 1 fate on each, or do you just let it ride empty?
I don't know. Treacherous is still on the Fate Light. He's not investing any Fate on that Giver, even though or the Guest of Honor, even though he has 5 Fate remaining, and I can't imagine he'll be putting that much on the Brass Samurai. So Crow is not necessarily pressured into keeping his guys on the board. That would give him some advantage. I would like to see at least 1 Fate on one of the riders.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision from Treacherous, just because for people who aren't as familiar with this game, Guest of Honor is 4 fate, and for each fate that you put on her, you're getting 4 fate of value, essentially.
Yeah, the putting fate on characters just extends the value of your initial purchase. So it's very interesting that he's choosing to forego that, especially since he doesn't seem to be playing the Good Omen. At least he didn't have it last turn, which would have been a very good turn for it. I'll be interested to see what he does with his Brash Samurai here.
Interesting Shinjo Outrider come out. My guess is he's going to do that. Maybe he's going to go for Shinjo Border Rider Ide and try to get 2 credits and 2 cards off Ide Trader.
I mean, that's absolutely possible. The Border Rider does have the ability to move into a political conflict and has decent political skill. So the Ide Trader can do his more preferred conflict type and still get a card or a fate off of the Outrider. So that is definitely a good combo as well. I would still like to see 1 fate on one or both of them. He didn't do that on the Outrider, though. So if he does do the Trader, I would like to see a fate on it. Or even if he does a Border Rider still, I'd still like to see a fate on it. It looks like Treacherous is not putting a fate on Brash Samurai, which I do agree with a little bit more. Brash Samurai is a character that usually serves his purpose pretty well in 1 turn. It still seems a bit odd to me. I mean, even one fate on him would be nice. He's a 4/3. He honors himself if he attacks alone. So I mean, a 4/3 for 2 is pretty potent. So I'm a little surprised to see no fate on him either, just because he has no fate on the Guest of Honor either. We do see Grow bringing out the Rider, but it looks like he's not putting a fate on it. If we see him bring out the other Rider with no fate, I can only imagine that he's got a For Greater Glory that he plans on using this turn, if I had to guess. Seeing as the Riders and the Poet are all Bushi, so...
It's really weird to see Treacherous not putting the fate on and then passing early. He has 4 fate in his bowl.
Yeah, he's definitely hoarding the fate, and I mean, fate it's a hard resource to get, so it doesn't surprise me that much that he wants a lot of it. But that being said, you get more value out of the fate you spend on the characters. So
yeah, I wonder if he's just gonna bid 5 here and just try to gas some sort of engine out of his conflict cards.
That's entirely possible.
But then what are you doing with those, since your attachments aren't going to last more than one turn? Unless you get a good omen, in which case if you bid 5, you're not going to use it this turn.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens here. I don't see Crow bidding anything but a 1.
No. I think if he bids anything but a 1, it's way too greedy.
Oh, wow.
Crow.
He's still on the greed plan. He's like, I need more. I need all the cards. I don't know what he's...
thought Treacherous was finally going to bid 3?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe... Oh, God. He drew way too many cards there. He drew his entire deck. Oh. Undo. I don't know what Crow is digging for here, but I still think the 3 is too greedy. Maybe he's digging for the For Greater Glory. Maybe he doesn't have it yet. I'm not sure. The For Greater Glory is definitely strong, and it would be very nice to have. But I think the bidding 3 there is very, very greedy.
I wonder if he like put these, or put all the Outrider and the Rider into play without having For Greater Glory, and was trying to dig for that, which would seem weird. You've drawn half your deck now.
Yeah, it's I agree that it would be a bit weird. I would probably... I mean, I would have still bought, like, a Rider for sure, because I think the Rider is amazing.
Right, yeah. If you don't have it, I think you just buy differently and don't overcommit on the bid to try to find it. It's a way risky proposition when you don't have to be. Because I think Crow is very much in control of the game here.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as he keeps his honor total with out of a poor range, which if he didn't bid 3 there is absolutely possible. Here we see an air conflict coming out of Treacherous to try and put on the honor pressure still. With the Guest of Honor, I don't see much of a defense that Crow could put out here. Let's see, he's still scouting. Night Raid is actually pretty impactful considering he only has 6 cards. If his hand looked like Crow's, it would do nothing, but even 1 card out of 6 is pretty poor feeling. Personally, I would have gone after the Fertile Fields, considering Crow already has an infinite number of cards, but...
yeah, what's 1 more?
Yeah. Though Crow did bid 3 to ostensibly dig for something, so maybe you don't want to give him more cards even though he has an infinite amount already. Seems odd to me, but it is what it is. Treacherous choosing to pitch the fan that he probably doesn't need.
I made a comment on it, but Treacherous dropped a fate in his honor bowl.
Oh, yeah, he did.
So hopefully that doesn't mess up his math at all. He should be at 17 honor and 5 fate.
No, the honor bowl actually doesn't count fate when you put it in there.
Oh, it doesn't?
No,
oh, okay.
So he is at 18 honor, so that's not a problem. But
Travis is saying that fate will be counted as honor because I thought he was 17 to start the turn.
No, he was 18. I'm like 90% certain that that does not count. If he moves the fate, it'll stay 18.
I'm gonna default to Travis on this since he's the one who made it. I did mention it in chat, Travis. I may do it again.
It looks like Crow is opting to defend with his poet. She is 3 to the guest of honor's 4. So she will successfully defend, and she can use her ability to lower the guest of honor to 3, but he'll need to do something else in order to win. And there you go. It stayed 18. There you go, Travis. You're wrong on your scripts.
You did me dirty, Travis.
But anyway, we shouldn't have been interfering in the first place. But besides that, the poet also does have the advantage of still having cavalry. So if Crow is going for a for greater glory play, he can defend with her here and then use the Greater Plains outpost to get her into the conflict on the military side when he plans to do the for greater glory. So he's using the poet, so they're both tied at 3 now. He did draw his card from his spyglass. And here comes the admit defeat. It's a very good Crane card, and one of the reasons you don't want to defend solo against them.
Especially with Guest of Honor, when you can't use your Lion cards to get out of bowing.
Yep, absolutely. So this is probably the second broken province of the game for Treacherous. But at least Crow won't lose the unopposed honor. He could actually pull in the Border Rider with its ability, or not Border Rider, Shinjo Outrider with his ability, just so that Treacherous will have to invest another card to break. But that would severely weaken his attack if he did that.
Looks like he's thinking about it. So you've got to assume he's got the for greater glory in hand and is trying to get something done with all those guys out there.
Oh, and here comes another Spyglass. Unfortunately, Spyglass does cost 1 fate, so he's not going to be able to do the for greater glory play unless he finds a way to gain a fate. He could do a ring with a fate on it, but
he could. Yeah, the water ring isn't terrible.
Yeah, it's definitely not bad. It would force him to defend with the Brash Samurai, but when you only have 2 Border Riders and no fate, it seems like you'll probably have to commit some fate in order to do anything with it anyway. So you should draw a card here from his Spyglass. And there he goes, drawing even more cards. I don't even know how
Treacherous is a fan here. Okay, for shame.
I mean, Treacherous is basically out of cards at this point. He is investing a lot into this conflict. So I don't blame Crow for playing it this way. It makes it even easier for him to pull off whatever play he's intending to do next turn. Or on his conflict, rather. He is choosing to dishonor, which seems very dangerous to me, considering what his honor's at already.
Yeah, you've already lost this. I guess he wants to make... No, because it still breaks, because he's at 5. I know the ticker's not updated, but it's 5-1 right now. So he's still going to break.
Yeah, he is still going to break it.
So yeah, I think you just bow here and you take your lumps. Mahi Crow has 18 cards left in his conflict deck. So surprisingly not super close to decking out.
So yeah, he's using the stronghold, ostensibly just because he misadded and didn't realize he was already breaking. But that one makes at least a little bit more sense than using it on the one where he was already winning. Um, so he's breaking now, and he's going to steal 1 honor. So Crow is effectively at 2 honor with his Outrider being dishonored currently. Um, it'll be interesting to see what he does with his conflict. Um,
I'm interested to why he didn't go with the stronghold first instead of using the Four Shame. He's already
um,
so low on cards.
Probably for hoping exactly for the guy becoming dishonored instead of bowing. Um, if I had to guess, just because it puts Crow on a serious pressure for the dishonor. So it does look like someone brings up a good point here. The FFG official way to denote a broken province is 180 degrees, but most people in the community are opting for uh, 90 just because it is much more obvious that a province is broken. We do see Treacherous pulling out uh, the Forged Edict off of his Artisan Academy, which is a very good card for him right now. It means that his Guest of Honor is still going to be able to cancel an event if Crow would like to play one, which is very nasty, especially since she's already honored, so he doesn't even have to lower her to Ordinary. And the one stat she gets from being honored is not terribly impactful anyway.
If you break your provinces at 90 degrees versus me, I'm calling judge.
In a physical real game, it's a little bit harder because, as someone points out in the chat, you usually don't have this much space, especially in tournaments where you get to sit next to people. So your provinces are much more constrained, and you don't have that much room. But if you want to call a judge, I'm sure that they wouldn't have a problem with the 90 degrees, as long as they are not, as long as it's not easy to think that they're unbroken when they're broken. I can't imagine that they would care that much.
Hey, they are there to uphold the rules as written.
As written, man. All right, we see the water coming out to gain the fate.
There's the fate, yep.
He'll need to find an impactful. If he's still on the For Greater Glory plan, he'll need to find an impactful event to play first to draw out that Forged Edict. We'll see what happens. But if Treacherous decides to defend this conflict at all, actually, it'll be hard for Crow to win anyway. But if he does defend, Crow has the Border Riders that can still make a political conflict on top of that. So he's actually not in a bad place. He's attacking the rally because it doesn't do anything anymore. Definitely a good choice there. I see very little reason for him not to attack with both of the Border Riders here. It looks like he might be only attacking with one just to bait out the defense, I guess. But he can bait out the defense with both and still have them ready for either the attack or defense if he doesn't block. Alright, so there he goes.
Because he will have Golden Plains Outpost on the defense, since it will have to be a military challenge or military conflict.
Well, their action is just to ready themselves. So even if
right, but I guess he could commit them bowed.
No, he can't commit them bowed, but he can ready them during the pre-conflict action phase.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a tough spot for Treacherous. He only has 2 cards in his hand, and currently he'll still lose this conflict if he defends with the Brash Samurai and honors him. But if he doesn't defend with the Brash Samurai, he'll get bowed regardless. So it's definitely an interesting situation for him to be in. It gives Crow the definite opportunity to at least get a free conflict with his riders on a political basis afterwards.
Yeah, you gotta hope for a strong flop for Treacherous, because while it is 2-0 in terms of broken provinces, Treacherous is looking like he's running out of gas a little bit. He's got a full Fate Bowl, but he's only got 2 cards in hand.
There comes a fine katana. So if Crow's got another fine katana, he could still for greater glory. And he said he does need to find another event, or Forge Edict is just going to stop him from playing for greater glory. The Treacherous only has 2 cards. He might not have a Voice of Honor to back up the Forge Edict if Crow does have 2 cards. He would have to find a 0 cost event to be canceled though, and I don't know what his options are there. Maybe a bonsai might be able to draw out the Forged Edict. I can only imagine at this point Crow is having a hard time keeping track of everything in his hand, even though it's right in front of him, I'm sure. All right, so here comes the bonsai. I can't
Kick it, Crow.
I can't imagine that he'll kick it, but he might. So it looks like he's not kicking it. He's choosing just to leave it at 8, and Treacherous is not choosing to cancel it. So Crow is breaking this province currently. So we can try to activate the For Greater Glory, but there you go. You see Treacherous doing the more normal way to break a province. This does give Crow the ability, instead of bowing the Brash Samurai, to ready another guy. So he'll be able to break a second province on the political attack here.
Wow, the Hotaru getting kicked out is
that is
rough
very
for
poor.
someone who's
Yeah.
going to end the turn with 4 fate, most likely.
I can only imagine this next attack from Crow basically has to be fire so that he can re-honor his guy, or honor just a random guy so that he doesn't go down to 2 honor. On the other side, though, Treacherous is at 19. He'll go up to 21 at the end of this turn. So he's actually looking to pressure both dishonor and honor victories, and also breaking provinces. So he's got a pretty good force out there, despite the fact that he's on a pretty low end on the cards and gas.
I thought threatening 3 victory conditions at the same time was what everyone did all the time.
It certainly seems optimal, doesn't it?
Yeah, you got options. You can decide. It's like choose your own adventure.
Crow should be straightening his border riders here to try and break the Shameful Display, maybe, or scout another province. The Shameful Display does have a Keeper Monk in it, which is effectively worthless to get that card discarded. But it would be an easy one for him to get, though the Poet does have 2 glory, and he would lose an honor, so maybe not. The Poet could go solo, though, unless Treacherous has a conflict character in his hand that isn't Steward of Law. He wouldn't lose an honor from it. It does seem a bit wasteful of the border riders to do it that way, though. Yep, here comes the fire so that he can stave off at least some honor loss. Unfortunately, he hasn't seen his Keeper Monks yet, which would be very nice in this situation. It does look like he's not choosing to ready the border riders, so I see no reason for him not to go for the Shameful Display here, just to break it without much of a consequence. Oh, and then Treacherous breaking his correct orientation to follow everyone else.
He's gonna poke here.
That seems like an odd choice, especially
Correct.
since he didn't straighten the riders. Unless he's got another attachment in his hand or some other way to pump the Poet,
she's not going to break any province outside a Shameful Display. Um, so I'm a little surprised there. We do see the Meditations on the Tau, which is a very powerful province, except Crow doesn't have any guys with Fate, so it actually does nothing. Um, and I guess Treacherous wouldn't, if he ran into it, would also have no guys with Fate. So, um, yeah, Meditations on the Tau is not great when nobody has any Fate. Also, it looks like he's honoring his guy, so he's trying to stave off that honor loss, and it also will make the poet big enough to break the province. Um, so he's trying his best not to dishonor himself out. Um,
He's making some plays.
looks like Treacherous might be using the edict on the court games here, which would certainly not be bad. It would force Crow to have something besides the court games because it is max 1 per conflict. Um, it looks like he's electing not to use it. Maybe.
That seems inadvisable, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best edict that you're going to be able to get out of this turn.
Yeah, because it's twofold, right? You're saving a province from breaking, most likely, or at least forcing another card to break it, but then also um, threatening dishonor on your opponent a little bit more.
Yeah. Yep. I definitely think it would be advisable for that. Oh man, he's doing the super late spyglass. I'm surprised. Treacherous is being pretty casual with the takebacks here, and so is Crow, which it is a casual tournament, so it does make sense. Um, they're they're having fun with it, I guess. So yeah, I think that definitely confirms the no edict on the court game. So he's just letting the province break.
Wow.
So Crow Games actually he ends with a two break. He actually gains 1 honor instead of losing 1. And the board resets again. He'll actually have the favor this time. I think the game is looking very good for Crow at this point. Is now 2 provinces to 2. Um, his honor's a little bit sketchy, but he's got a much better card. Like his hand is obviously infinitely more useful than Treacherous is at this point. Um, yeah, this is starting to look pretty good for Unicorn, if I'd have to say. Uh, Treacherous is still threatening both an honor and a dishonor victory. Interestingly enough, I still think it's unlikely, but possible. Does seem like Crow is paying some mind to his honor. Once again, I'll be very surprised if we see anything but a bid 1, but I said that last turn and he bid 3, so um, yeah, we'll have to see.
I gotta imagine we're gonna see some fate put onto Treacherous's characters this turn.
I would only have to imagine. He's got 11 fate.
Yeah.
He's been pretty greedy with it already. I can't imagine that he'll maintain that greed with how much fate he has piled up.
Crane is threatening that honor victory though.
Yeah, no, I've said that several times. It's a real possibility. Once you hit that 20 threshold, especially in Crane or Lion, because of their clan champions, they can really threaten that that honor win. The possibility of gaining 4 honor is very, very potent.
It's pretty rare to see a full honor win in core though. So
It is.
much more likely to see breaking, and then probably I've seen more dishonor victories. We have had 1 honor victory this tournament though.
Yeah, it's not unheard of. I think it is a viable strategy as a switch, like kind of what Treacherous is doing. Just while you're doing your game plan, you're also threatening a win via honor. So there's a Hataru. So he got lucky and he got another one. I can only imagine we'll see Hataru with at least 1 or 2 fate. I'm hoping. We do still need to see Crow flip his guys, especially since he's first this turn. I guess while we're waiting on him, the characters that we haven't seen from Treacherous before but flip now. Hataru, 5 cost, 3/6 with 3 glory. Bushi, champion. When she wins a political conflict, she can resolve the ring's effect. So whatever ring you're currently contesting as the attacker, you'll resolve it twice. It does look like we see the champion for Crow come out as well, Shinjo Alton Sarnai. She's a Bushi Cav champion with 5 military, 4 political, and 2 glory. After she breaks a province in a military conflict, your opponent has to sacrifice a guy. So that puts Treacherous in an interesting place, considering Crow is going first. Did we see the double Alton Sarnai? Oh, that is actually bad for Crow unless he's got a Cav reserves to back it up. But yeah, no, if Treacherous invests in Hataru, he needs to buy at least one more character, or Alton Sarnai will kill her. So he has the fate to do it, though, so I would still be surprised to not see that happening. It looks like Crow doesn't realize that it's an action to do that with Alton Sarnai, to discard the other copy. Whenever you see unique as an action during the Dynasty phase, you can discard that copy to give a fate to the one currently in play. But like I said, that is an action, so he did it a little prematurely. I don't know that it'll matter considering what his board and hand look like. He's got a giver of gifts, which I'd be surprised if he was going to buy anyway. Are we seeing a no fate Hataru here? I can't imagine. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, fate or riot, Treacherous. Yeah, so I gotta think Crow's gonna go for the air ring.
All right, so it does look like he gets the trader or the giver of gifts. They're trader and the giver of gifts, too similar. So he still gets the passing fate. Treacherous does have the option to buy either Asami or the Storyteller. We haven't seen the Storyteller yet. He's a very powerful character. Serenity, draw cards is absolutely good, especially when you have none to begin with. Though, if I had to guess, if Treacherous is... I don't know. I feel like if Treacherous is going to win this game, it's going to be this turn, to be honest. Hataru plus Air Ring is very powerful. I'd be surprised if Crow does anything but air just to stop that from happening. Looks like Treacherous might be getting Asami just to increase his potential to win via honor. She does steal 1 honor. So even if he does like Ring of Fire plus Asami, that gets him to 24. If, for instance, Crow takes away the air.
Yeah, I think Crow has to take away the air here.
Yeah, he definitely does not have a choice. If he makes an attack as the first player, which he should, he won't have much of a defense for Hataru attacks. So.
No, yeah, the Hotaru coming in on air would end the game.
So we're seeing an Asami, probably with no fate given his current inclinations with everything else. So here comes the bids. If Crow bids anything but 1 here, I will be so sad. He's been playing this very fine line the entire game. All right, he finally did it. He finally did a bid 1.
We changed it. We got a fate from Treacherous, and we got a bid 1 from Crow. Giving the people what they want.
So Crow's in an interesting spot here. It definitely feels like he needs to do air. It looks like he's doing void.
That seems
very greedy. Maybe he has some plan for the Hataru attack that we can't see with his infinite cards. Given any card he would want, he would need fate to pull off anything really extravagant. He's leaving back the gifts. And here comes the Art of Peace, which I actually have found that I don't like it very much just because it's very conflicting. You don't want to defend it so that it breaks, so that it dishonors their guys, but you want to defend it so that your guys honor. It's an interesting province, um, but looks like Treacherous is going to defend with the Asahina. It does give her the ability to honor and dishonor while having the province still break, but Treacherous will just have to discard the Asahina if he does break the province. Um, though she doesn't do anything while she's bowed, so.
Well, she doesn't do anything if she comes in without another character. Correct?
Sorry, what?
She doesn't do anything solo either. So
Yeah,
she
no.
can bow and
Well, the Asahina can bow from home to give any character 3 political.
yes, yeah,
any
yeah, yeah.
Crane character.
Which is why it seems weird to defend with her here.
Like I said, it's probably just that it's not unopposed. He will gain an honor off of the province breaking. Actually, let's see. When does Altan Sarnai? After. When? So, yeah. So this will go off. Dishonor her, honor her, and then Altan Sarnai will go off, killing her, putting him up to 22 honor. So.
But then, yeah, it'll be interesting to see because that puts Treacherous one closer to the honor victory. But I don't think it's gonna matter because you got to think he comes in with Hataru.
Yeah, I think it might just be so that he doesn't get the unopposed. Because if Crow gets the unopposed here, it puts him down to 20. And then, no, Hataru plus Asami can gain 5 honor on a Ring of Air. So, I don't know. I'm not sure why he defended, really. Unless he plans on not letting Altan Sarnai break. But I'm not sure how an Asahina is going to stop that. Though, if Crow has another Fallen in battle, that would be very punishing here. He would kill the Asahina before Altan Sarnai would go off, and then Treacherous would be forced into choosing either Asami or Hataru, which I would only imagine he would choose Asami. Though Crow does know that Treacherous has a Forged Edict in his hand, though he only has 1 courtier to put it on, so. So it looks like he's winning and breaking. So that should honor and dishonor those. Though he should put if he has the Fallen in battle, he should play it first. Because Fallen in battle is just on winning, and you win before you break the province. So I guess he either doesn't have the Fallen in battle or just didn't play it, one of the two. Altan Sarnai should become dishonorable as well. I don't know if they're just missing that or what. But
Maybe you just didn't see the Fallen in battle. If I had a hand of that many cards, I probably wouldn't see it.
very easy to miss. Yeah, the Fallen in battle there would be pretty devastating.
Yeah, you've got to start asking with Treacherous threatening both ends of the honor victory, and Crow sitting with all of he only has played 9 conflict cards. So was giving Treacherous the honor during bidding actually worth it because he's not using his card advantage?
No, it doesn't seem like it was. If he had bid won the 2 previous turns, he'd still have almost the same number of cards, but he'd be at 8 honor, and Treacherous would be at 18. So it definitely seems like it was not worth it to bid high on those turns, because he's absolutely winning the province race currently. So he's putting a favored mount onto Altan Sarnai, who already has cabs, so it just gives her the ability to move in. I'm not sure what plan he has to get her standing, because he had the stronghold and favorable grounds to get her moved in the first place. So she already had a lot of options to move in. I'm not sure what what benefit she gets off of having the favorable mount.
Looks like he's moving that favorable mount to the giver of gifts.
That's also interesting, mostly just because he could have just played it onto the giver of gifts. All right, and there we see the I am ready to stand is Altan Sarnai, which does get Forged Edict, so that pulls out the Forged Edict. Treacherous is down to 1 card. If Crow can put up any kind of real defense, that can definitely be rough. Unfortunately, it does mean Altan Sarnai is still bowed with no fate, because I Am Ready's cost is to remove a fate, so that still happened. I still can't help but feel like if Crow had done the air challenge on that last conflict, he probably actually would have been probably in a pretty good spot to win this game. But I'm not sure what Crow has here to stop the Forged Edict.
My guess is he's asking about whether he keeps the fate on Altan Sarnai or not.
Oh yeah, no, he definitely doesn't. If he's asking about that.
That's why they pulled Forge Edict out. That's my read. As he's curious how that interaction's going down.
Come on, guys, we're here. Totally available to ask.
They keep hovering both cards. Yeah, the Uni-Champ is not Dishonored because they missed it.
I'm not sure what's going on here. Are they asking anything in the chat?
Nope. Oh, ready for battle, counter the Forge Edict judge ruling. He just asked. So for the viewers, we're just sorting out the technicalities of the Forge Edict, countering the I am ready.
Yeah, Forged Edict is just when an effects of an event would initiate, dishonor, query, or cancel those effects. The effects of I am ready are just ready that character. So everything on the card prior to ready that character initiates. Or goes off. So the cost.
Looks like he's asking about ready for battle. So did Altan Sarnai ready and then become bowed by Forged Edict, which I do not believe is the case. He just never stood. Yeah, because Altan Sarnai never stood. So he's not being bowed. Correct?
Well, I am ready just says ready. It doesn't say cancel.
He's asking about ready for battle now.
Oh, ready for battle. Okay.
Yeah.
Ready for battle, I am ready.
Yeah, and the reason for that, correct me if I'm wrong, is because Altan Sarnai never stood. The ready for battle, or I am ready, was interrupted before it stood Altan Sarnai.
Correct.
So it's not Forge Edict does not rebow him. It just prevents him from ever standing. here's the air conflict we
Yep.
were all suspecting or expecting.
So Crow's got a pretty heavy task ahead of him here. Um, Treacherous has, even with the dishonor to Sami, he's got 9 total political strength there to his 3 on his trader. So he's got quite the uphill battle to stave off this attack. Luckily, he does get the Fertile Fields or the Shameful Display. Fertile Fields obviously being a bit better for Treacherous as it doesn't dishonor Hotaru. It does give Crow another card to potentially draw for an answer, though.
What happened to Hotaru's fate?
It got discarded by the Void Ring.
Oh, okay, perfect. So yeah, the Fertile Field seems like the right decision here. One more card for Crow doesn't seem to be super impactful here. Yeah, unless Crow can answer this, this is gonna end the game.
Oh, here's a card that is definitely potent in this matchup. It stops
Here we
Hitaru
go.
from reacting with her ability because it's no longer political. It also changes the stats drastically.
There
It
we
puts
go.
the
That's the
giver
play we were looking for.
puts the giver of gifts at 3, Hitaru at 3, and Asami at 0. So they're now tied 3-3. Actually, it makes Crow at 4 because of the Imperial favor. That might actually be a game-winning play for Crow here if he recognizes that he wins.
Yeah, I don't think Crow sees the Imperial favor here.
Okay, so he missed the favor.
He has his dial set at 3.
So it looks like they're resolving the ring, but Treacherous is actually electing to steal an honor to put the honor pressure on Crow a little bit more. Or no, he's using Asami's ability, which he can't use because it's no longer political. But yeah, we'll see what Crow has if he's got anything to stop this ring from going off. If the ring goes off currently, Treacherous would still win. He's at 23, so going up to 25 would win in the game, despite the fact that he shouldn't have been able to use Asami's ability. I find it hard to believe that Crow doesn't have something here that would give him a military buff. Oh, looks like they're maybe recognizing that Asami can't be used.
And they would have to claim the ring first. So if Asami could be used, it would just be an insta win.
It would be, yeah, if Crow doesn't have anything to win the military. Though he is currently winning the military anyway. He just needs to see that. He sees that he's got the favor, and thus at 4 instead of 3. It actually changes this to where Treacherous has to spend the last card in his hand. A Katana will do that just as well.
Yep. Do we know what the last card in Treacherous' hand is?
We do not. The only card I think we had prior knowledge of was the Forged Edict, which he already played. Yeah. So at least I'm not aware of what his last card is. Oh, and now he sees the Imperial favor, realizing he didn't need the Katana. But I think that still might be it. Though he is going second next turn, so Treacherous has a pretty good chance of.
I've gotta imagine he has another way of the unicorn in hand.
Yeah, at this point, probably. And it would be a very good turn to use it on, I would imagine.
Get that card. It puts puts Crow down to 15, which is a lot higher than he seems like he would be in his conflict deck.
Yeah, it definitely seems like he should be almost out of cards, but I guess not. So he successfully defends the Hitaru defense. Captive Audience is actually a card I had not considered, and it is obviously very potent. So if Crow has a Way of the Unicorn here, I think he might actually be able to pull it out. He only has to break the province, or the Stronghold province left. If he's got like a Way of the Unicorn and Cavalry reserves, I don't see much that Treacherous could do to stop him.
What's interesting in this game still is that if you look at their discards, Crow has only played 11 conflict cards to Treacherous's 8. So that card advantage isn't really playing such a big role here.
Yeah, it's exactly why I've been saying like super high bids on early turns is not necessarily relevant. Like looking at Crow, he's played roughly the same amount of cards as Treacherous. Though he did drawing all those cards did give him the options of the cards he did play.
Correct. He
it's-
saw a lot of his cards. I don't think we've seen him play the same card twice, pretty much.
But it does put him in this very awkward situation where his honor is in severe jeopardy on both ends of either being dishonored out or being honored out. So if he didn't bid that high, he may not have had those options, but he also wouldn't be in this situation where he's got to really pay attention to his honor.
Another board clear.
Yep. Which, like I said, if that card doesn't get discarded, and he can't discard it by choice either. Face down cards never discard from provinces, unless it's when a province is broken. All right, cool. It seems like he's seeing that now. If he has to play the Way of the Unicorn before they flip technically, but it seems like he might not have it. Though Treacherous's flip is not terribly conducive to pushing his win this turn. So I still think Crow might have a pretty decent chance here. Treacherous does need to break 2 provinces to win, or make Crow lose 3 honor or gain 3 honor himself. So he's got a little bit of work to do, and only one of the characters he flipped are terribly impactful. Oh god, another rewind. Ugh.
I'm guessing we're rewinding to get Way of the Unicorn played?
Potentially. I'm not sure what's going on here. They're going back to the end of last turn. Oh my god, please stop. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so they reround all the way back to the end of last turn, which they really shouldn't do, but we're not going to stop them from doing it. So they're continuing with that. So maybe they rewound a little bit too far. That guy gets discarded forcibly. So far it looks the same. So the only real difference I could see here at this point is Way of the Unicorn.
Yeah.
Which
you didn't need to rewind for. If you were gonna give it to him, he's already seen the flop.
Yeah.
Just give it to him.
Which it looks like he's not doing again, so I'm not sure what all that rewinding was for. That flip from Crow is not fantastic either, though his first Keeper Monk is certainly nice. And the Border Rider, like, he got some decent cards, but nothing super high impact for taking that last province. But if he's got a Cavalry Reserves, that'll be enough, assuming Treachery doesn't have an event cancel for it. I think Crow is not
incorrect.
Oh my god,
Oh
stop.
my God.
Stop rewinding. You could just move the token back. Oh my god, please stop. They're going all the way back to the beginning of last turn, or the end of last turn again.
We don't have any epilepsy in the chat, do we?
I hope not.
It's getting sketchy out here.
I think he literally just did that to prove to Crow that he was supposed to be first player this turn. And I feel like that could have been accomplished just by asking us. But that's all right, I guess. If they rewind back to the end of next turn again, I'm DQing them both. I hope you're okay with that, Rega.
Get some extra fate this rewind.
Yeah.
It's like this is just Groundhog Day. We're just gonna play this last turn over and over, or this possibly last turn. Who knows?
Yeah.
We've seen some tricks before. If you
Alright.
treacherous in this position, do you keep trying to push that honor win, or do you just draw cards?
I don't know. It's tough. Treacherous is in a very tough position here. He's down 3 provinces, so Crow only needs to break 1 more.
I think with that flop, you have to bid 5 here.
I mean, it's potential. He doesn't have very much gas to force that 3 honor loss. It'll definitely be really hard for him to do. But if he does bid 5, it gives Crow an infinite amount more space. Like, he doesn't have to worry about doing air or fire rings ever again. He just has to focus on that province break. So it's a pretty tough decision. To be honest, I'm not sure what I would do in Treacherous' position as far as the bid goes. So here comes out the Warrior Poet. Probably with no fate. Continuing on that, though, if he plans on winning this turn, fate on a character doesn't mean much. Here comes a grandma, as people lovingly refer to her as, the Doji Gift Giver, as opposed to the Giver of Gifts. 2 very different cards, both fairly impactful, though.
The province he's gonna have to break is probably the +5 military province, right?
I would imagine so. We've seen all of Treacherous' provinces at this point.
No Earth.
He's Keeper, so we know it's Earth. It seems unlikely that he would be playing Ancestral Lands.
But yeah, so I don't see a super strong possibility of breaking that this turn with his flop.
Doji Challenger is definitely good here too, because it means Crow, even though he doesn't have to fear too much, like he can not defend Treacherous' first attack because he probably won't lose honor from it, but Doji Challenger will force him to defend, which is a bit rough for Crow here if he's going to go for that province break and he doesn't have cavalry reserves. And he's hovering over that the gift giver, so he might not have it, the giver of gifts rather.
We're gonna have Giver of Gifts and Gift Giver in the same, potentially in the same combat.
Yeah, potentially. Not
Keep us on our
confusing at
toes.
all. Yeah, I have to imagine that Crow has a second cavalry reserves, so he's gonna need the fate to play it if he does.
But he can get the fate off of a conflict.
He can, yes. Let's see what the fate on the rings is looking like. 2 on Earth wouldn't be bad. He's buying the Keeper Initiate, which seems really interesting to me. I know it is 1 cheaper than the Giver of Gifts, but it's only a 1/1. That doesn't seem terribly worth it to me, especially since it doesn't have a fate on it now. Whereas if he won a Fire Ring, he could put a fate on it that way. I can't say I've ever seen someone hard buy a Keeper before, but
We're
is
breaking all
what it
the
is.
norms in this
Yeah.
game.
all of the preconceptions.
All right, 1 card each. Treacherous, just choosing to keep that honor win on the table, and the dishonor. I guess if he bids 5, both honor and you have to break.
Yep, exactly.
Which is very difficult to do.
Yep,
at this point, before Crow can.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I thought that he'd probably end up having to bid 1 just so that he can't, like, because it puts him in a position where if he bids 5, he has to break, and that's just, I don't know that that's an option for him, unfortunately. All right, we see the water coming out here from him. It gives him 4 fate, and he's got 2 keeper monks. So he might actually be looking to win this conflict instead of pull defenders in from Crow. Um, the double keeper would be almost as effective at blocking or attacking as the Doji Challenger minus her ability. So. And there he is going after the fertile fields just to give him the option of really doing either a break or a pull in. If he were to do Shameful Display, it'd be pretty likely that Crow would defend it with the keeper, for instance, and do a 4 stat point swing with the Shameful Display trigger.
Risky play here, letting Crow get an extra card.
It is, absolutely. I mean, Crow has already infinite cards. I can't imagine there's a card in his deck he hasn't seen yet. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure the Doji Challenger is going to pull in any of the 3 characters and then bow it with his Stronghold. Certainly a strong play to make. Though Treacherous setting himself up to definitely not attack and have his weaker of the military defenders for the defense on Crow's attack. I feel like if Crow does have the cavalry reserves, he probably gets it here. Another interesting thing to point out is if he does have the cavalry reserves, he's got 2 Moto Youths in his discard pile, which are 3s on the first military. So if Treacherous would have done the military instead of the political here, he could have robbed 2 points away. But that's a pretty meta play that I don't know is worth much consideration, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, so we're probably going to see the Warrior Poet get pulled in here.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Pulling in the Border Rider doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, the Border Rider doesn't do anything. The Monk is so low impact, I don't see much of a reason to try and stop it. The Poet is definitely the prime target for being pulled in for sure, though it does make breaking it infinitely harder, but he's not breaking it currently, so there's that. So it looks like Crow is definitely going for the no defense, which I think is the correct play, and then he's drawing a card. Though if Treacherous pulls in the Poet and he still wins the conflict, that does put him at Crow at only having the Border Rider as an attacker. So it's actually an interesting. The water conflict here was interesting for sure. Here we see the second captive audience. Not entirely sure why though.
Maybe to dodging the Shizuka Toshi doesn't really help a whole lot.
I mean, he is winning this conflict now with the Poet putting the Doji Challenger down to 2, and he's got 3 total skill, so he's winning the conflict. But he puts him dangerously low on the honor, and the only thing that the Water Ring would have done to him is bow the Monk, or bow the Rider and force him to use the ability before his attack. Seems like we just have some more what I would consider a little bit of a premature overcommitment, but oh no, the Water Ring also does the keepers, so keeping the keepers out is actually also something else that's pretty important. So that's a fair point actually. Crow might have actually, I think, not overcommitted this time.
Yeah, that definitely is something to consider. I wonder. Yeah, here he's going to use his Poet, I've got to imagine. Just since you're not showing any new information by using it.
Yeah. So it looks like Treacherous will have to have a useful card in his hand to take this Water Ring, which is actually really important between the monks and bowing the other monk, I suppose. Oh, here we see a Bonsai, and it looks like he is going to kick it. So that puts him up to 6-3. Crow, I think Crow could still pull out a win on this attack if he wanted to. But I think at that point, I think he should be. I mean, even with the 2 monks, I think he might be fine if he has exactly the cavalry reserves. If he has the cavalry reserves and Treacherous doesn't have exactly Forged Edict, I think he can still break the Stronghold without much trouble.
All right, is Crow gonna try to challenge this? Is it worth it, or do you just let him have it?
I don't know. It depends on what his hand looks like. It would take 4 force, so either a bonsai that was kicked himself, which feels really dangerous, or like 2 katanas. He can also move in the rider, actually. So rider plus katana would do it with his stronghold. The rider can ready for the attack during the pre-conflict phase. So it really just depends on what he has. Charge plus his stronghold also does it. Though I feel like charging for the win probably would have been better, but
We don't care about winning here.
we just care about the overcommit.
We do this game on a battle-to-battle basis. We don't concern ourselves with the future. Like, how many conflicts have we seen? And we only have 5 total broken provinces. There's a lot of strong defenses.
Yeah, there have been a lot of strong defenses during this game for sure. I think both players have definitely made at least one conflict a turn, and there are definitely some turns where at least one of them made 2. I don't know if we've had a full 4 conflict turn yet, though. I just can't. I can't remember that far back.
Unicorn does still look like they're in a good position to take their first game of the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. If he's got the cavalry reserves, like I said, Treacherous has 2-0 military characters. So even if it's entrenched positions, meaning Crow needs to get up to 12, one cavalry reserves puts him up to 9 with the 2 Moto Youths and a Moto Horde, plus whatever characters he puts in it, and then his massive cards. So
Yeah, the other thing you've got to consider, if that's your game plan, maybe you just try to stall this turn if you're Crow,
that's
and
weird.
get back first player and drop your motos to get the extra benefit.
That's absolutely possible. It looks like he chose not to use his stronghold to pull in the border rider. Which seems like an odd choice because the border rider could straighten itself for the attack. So I'm kind of interested to see why he didn't do that. Maybe he just missed it. I'm not sure. So this makes Crane's defense much, much stronger, actually. It also means that I think Crow can't really attack here, because if he attacks and fails, he'll lose the game on an unopposed air ring. So I'm really not sure why he committed and then stopped committing at the end there. I don't see what Treacherous could have done if he'd used his stronghold to get the border rider in there.
Yeah, it's also like, it's super interesting that Crow has the ability to overcommit. He has the cards that he can afford to overcommit. So it's interesting that we see him like show some caution and pull out early in those conflicts.
Yeah.
That he's already committed a little bit to.
Actually, I guess there is a fair point. The border rider can ready to defend, so he won't necessarily lose from an unopposed air it does look like in transpositions. So he does have to get up to 12. I'd imagine Treacherous is going to defend this with at least the Doji Gift Giver. Um, and maybe one monk or both. Though if he defends with the monks, he probably can't make the attack, and then Crow's going first next turn, which is very, very scary.
Because yeah, that last challenge, while it resolved military, was declared political.
Yeah.
Treacherous has to declare military.
Yes. So like the Giver of Gifts and the Asahina are not good enough to do an unopposed. So if he plans to do an unopposed air, if he plans on defending this and then doing an unopposed air, if he doesn't lose, the keeper monk, one keeper monk will have to stay back. Oh, and here we see the cavalry reserves. It looks like Treacherous went for the no defense.
Wow.
Which, I definitely think was the incorrect play, and I think that gives it to Crow. The Cav Reserves brings out a Moto Horde, which is 6, plus 2 Moto Youths, which are 2 each, because this is no longer the first military conflict because of the captive audience. But that's still enough to get there.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision. I feel like you at least defend with the grandma there.
Yeah, the grandma there would force Crow to have another card, because even if Crow bows a 2 strength dude, that still puts him at 11, which he needs 12 to win. So,
Yeah, I don't know what Treacherous's card could be that could turn this around, but I don't think it's anything.
yep, nope. I think that's it. That's why I was a little surprised. I was expecting a monk, at least one monk and a grandma, to make Crow have more than just the cavalry reserves. But there it is. It looks like he's going with the double rider instead, because they are actually just as effective on the attack as the Moto Youth, because this is not the first military. Or no, he can only do one, though.
He can't double rider.
That's not enough.
Whoa.
That's not enough. That's only... so that's 10, 11. He needs one more. So that seems a bit greedy to me, but...
Guessing he has a katana or something in hand.
I can only imagine, and it's not like Treacherous is going to have anything to stop the katana.
Against
so.
that. Let's see here. Let's see what's happening. He's looking at all his cards, trying to find a way out.
I'm surprised he didn't go with the Moto Youths, because they just broke unless Treacherous has a card.
Yeah, Crow's just like rifling through his hand, seeing if he has. It looks like he's looking for anything else.
Looks like he might be realizing that he needs to do the double Moto Youth instead. He's looking through his discard pile again, and he's looking at Cavalry Reserves. He might have thought that Cavalry Reserves was like Scorpion's Ambush, has a hard limit of 2 characters, but it does not. It's only limited by the cost of the total cost of the characters.
Hasn't he brought out the Moto Horde and the other 2 before?
Yes, he has. I think, but
I thought that's what he did for his first reserve.
I'm not sure. I do believe you're correct, but
it's been a while.
Like, I can't imagine Crow doesn't have something. I would be really interested to see what his hand is with how he has not played hardly any of these cards all game.
Not sure what they're calculating. I wonder if Crow thought this was a 10, forgot the +2 for the Shizuka.
Maybe. That's entirely possible.
I'm surprised if he has pump. I don't know why he hasn't played it yet.
Yeah, it just seems so unlikely that he doesn't have pump. I imagine he's running the full complement of bonsai or katana. We've seen one of each, I'm sure. So I can't imagine he doesn't have another one.
I think we might have seen two katanas.
I think you're right. It is possible that we've seen two katanas.
He's just resolving it. They're not breaking.
Wow, so he didn't have another military pump. Um,
But
man.
he had the game.
Yeah, no, he totally did. If he'd have done the two Moto U's plus the guy, that would have been enough. This is looking not great. He needs to realize that he can straighten those border riders before the attack comes out, though, um, which it looks like he might be. Um, like he needs to realize that he can straighten those before the attack happens, or like he can. Okay, yeah, he's doing it now. Okay. So that's good. He at least won't lose to the air ring, and he is going first next turn. But he does have nothing going into next turn, so unless he's got the third Cav reserves, which is totally possible. Um,
He has seen a lot of cards.
it's hard
48 to be exact.
it's hard to imagine that he's seen all three Cav reserves, but not another pump for that last conflict. Um, Yeah, no, the outwit from Treacherous would not have been enough to stop the Cav reserves win on the last one. So Crow definitely had it and missed it, which is unfortunate for him. Yeah, I'll be really interested to see if Crow shows us what his infinite cards couldn't do at the end of this game.
Yeah.
That should have to be a military conflict. Treacherous already made a political conflict this turn. Um,
Yeah, that does have to be military.
I don't think they're going to catch it, though. They also just might not know that captive audience does not change what you declared, so you still have to declare the previous one. They might think because he finished a military, he has to make a political.
Or, I mean, to be fair, they may have just forgot. They may only remember a military conflict. They may not remember that it got switched because it was like 15 to 20 minutes ago.
Yes, it was. It was quite a while ago.
Dark, to answer your question, I think we've seen one charge.
We've seen no routes.
We've seen no routes. One charge. I believe we've seen two katanas. I think that's the second fan, if not the third. So right now, still losing the air conflict. But should not be.
I wonder where Crow's ready for battle went, because we know he had one from forever ago. A little surprised he didn't play it there. Maybe he's saving it for the other one?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you need to win this air here.
Here comes the grandma. If we don't see a ready for battle here, I'm not sure what Crow is doing. Um, Travis is right. That is the second Fertile Fields this turn. Though, given how many cards Crow has played out of his Infinite, I don't know that it much matters. But and like you said, that was like 20 minutes ago. So, and he's still not using his ready for battle. This is quite interesting. I'm not sure why he's not playing it. Oh my god. What is he doing? He's using the third one.
The
But he
third was what?
The
No,
third captive
Crow, no.
audience.
Don't do it, Crow.
It was already military, and he's still losing. I don't know what his plan is here. I don't know why he didn't use that first if that was what he was going to do.
Yeah, because it gets around the Shizuka Toshi.
Oh, looks like he's taking that back, maybe?
His plan was to do that and then kick the bonsai. And just take an honorable death.
I think he was just realizing that he loses the game if he does the captive audience because of Air Ring, but I'm not sure why he didn't ready for battle there, just to not lose the conflict in the first place. But at least I guess he still would have lost it, but yeah.
I want to know what's in Crow's hand.
I do too. I want to see him show us these cards because I don't know what Crow. I feel like Crow is missing something. Like I can't imagine that there are no cards that he can play out of all those that could have won in the last conflict, even though he missed the double Moto Youth. Alright, there it goes. Crow is down to 1 honor. He is first going into next turn, though. So if he sees a decent flop and has the third Cav reserves, he's got another chance at it. Treacherous is still only going to draw 1 card. We'll see. This is definitely interesting. Oh, looks like we're going back again.
Oh, not using the rewind function, though.
Thank God. Okay, he's realizing they're ready for battle. Though, all that does at this point is stop the break, but it could modify Treacherous's play immensely.
Finally, he remembered this card from turn 1.
Yeah, this is pretty intense. Like I said, they've been flying pretty fast and loose with the takebacks. But that ready for battle only saves the province. So I'm not sure why he chose to remember it late at this point.
So you gotta remember anything. Remember that this should be a military conflict.
Yep. Or he could actually captive audience now so that Treacherous doesn't get the air ring, I guess. Because now that he has a standing guy, 2-1.
It's worth going down. You're gonna lose the honor anyway.
Alright, so he just didn't want to lose the province, I guess, which makes a certain amount of sense. Still, being at 1 honor is pretty rough. I only have to imagine at this point, based on what's going on, Crow Games has just like 20 assassinates. That's what his hand is. I figured it out, guys. His hand is all assassinate. He just hasn't been able to play them because he doesn't have the honor.
You got to go out on your terms at this point. If you got the assassinate, just play it.
Yep,
It's
Treacherous gets
an
the
honorable thing
favor,
to do.
which actually makes Crow's province break a lot harder to do. On top of the fact that Treacherous will have ostensibly more and better characters, so he's already got 2 monks to 0. So we'll see what Crow can do. I think missing the Moto Youths might be the nail in Crow's coffin. Granted, I'm pretty sure I've said nail in a coffin like 4 or 5 times this game, and it has never been true. So
We got zombie Crow versus zombie Treacherous. We tried to nail them in, and they just keep coming back. Both resilient players, if nothing else.
yes. Oh, here comes the Hataru, and a Kaizen. Some decent characters. None of their abilities are terribly relevant at this point, but they both Kaizen and Hataru can bring up a fair amount of military defense for Crow's attack here. That is a relatively unlucky flip if he is looking for some high impact characters. Although I guess she's actually guaranteed to be a 4/4 because Crow has
Here we go.
an infinite number of cards that he can. Oh God.
Strap in, boys.
Oh, here it comes.
I forgot to do this once I see the flop.
All right, how far back are we going?
Just to clean up.
For what purpose exactly? I'm confused.
Did we ever figure out why they rewound last time?
No. Actually, I think the first 2 times we didn't, but I think the very last time it was because Crow thought he was going to be first player.
Okay, they were trying to figure out first player.
Yeah, so I think that's why they did it the first the fourth time, the first time they did multiple rewinds, I believe was to determine first player.
Oh yeah, because Crow tried to take it on accident.
Yeah. So I don't know what the first few rewinds were for, and I don't know what the rewind right there was because nothing has changed. But
Hey, Riga, what was that? The final ruling on the double DQ that they rewound? Again?
Yep, these rewinds are definitely spotlight worthy for sure. They are.
Heinzel, that's what we said last turn.
Yeah, no, Heinzel. We've thought the last 3 turns would be the last turn, so both of these guys are pretty good at
Defending.
not making that happen.
We got All-American defensive players here. First team All-Americans.
Yeah, no, it's intense. Watching these guys play is very intense, for sure.
We thought Asami and Hotaro would do it 2 turns ago, Riga.
It's true, though. Crow
is
isn't.
way out.
Crow is at 1 honor, so if Asami's ability goes off, he does just lose there. Is there a ring with 2 fate on it? There is, so fire. So Crow still has the potential to cav reserves here for the win, maybe. Looks like Treacherous is going for the Kaizen for the extra military strength instead of the Asami win, which might be right considering Crow just has to win the attack here. I'm not sure. I would probably go for the Asami for that win, but
Yeah, because he can't change the conflict type because that costs an honor, correct?
correct, yeah.
So that's off the table for defending against the air. That's how he got out of it last time. He switched it to military.
All right, I can only imagine we'll see a 1-1 here again. If Tretch bids anything, if either of them bid anything but 1, the game is just over. All right. 1-1. So Treacherous still has 1 card to Crow's seemingly infinite worthless cards.
Crow has drawn 3/4 of his deck now. 10 left. That's how this game is destined to end.
Crow
With,
decks
with
himself.
Crow decks out for 5 honor.
Oh man! All right, so he's doing the fires. So I expect to see the third cavalry reserves here. So he's got a pretty impressive military strength. He's got the 4 from her once he discards a card, plus the 3 from Tatsuo. So he's at 7. Plus the Moto Horde puts him to 13, and then the 2 riders put him up to 19 because they'll both be 3 because it is the first military conflict. Looks like he is going for the Kaizen to potentially duel away everything once the Cav Reserves happens. It seems unlikely to me, but Treacherous does have the honor to bid to guarantee the win on the duel, but it makes the honor victory pretty hard, and I still think it would be pretty difficult for Treacherous to win on the province break. But the Kaizen is interesting for sure. Seems like Kaizen might be dueling now.
Why? Because he'll send Yamino home and just bring him back with Tetsuo, right?
Well, Tetsuo has to be home in order to use his
Oh,
ability.
that's right.
But
correct. Yeah.
if he sends only
But
one guy, he can just use his stronghold to bring him back in, or even favorable grounds. He could even actually, if Kaizen even after the cavalry reserves, he could favorable grounds Tatsuo home, Tatsuo one guy back in, and then use the stronghold to bring another, and then he's back up to almost full strength. It seems very premature to use Kaizen here though, because he literally just uses the stronghold to bring them back in.
Yeah, this is greedy on Treacherous's side, I think. The only defending with 1, and then initiating this duel prematurely.
Yeah, well before it's necessary.
Because he's not breaking yet.
Nope.
He doesn't win the game here. If anything, he loses the game. If this is how this conflict resolves, Crow certainly loses.
Yeah, because like I said, one cavalry reserves puts Crow up to 19. That is not enough for Kaizen and the Imperial favor to defend. And sending one guy home isn't going to change that.
This is all assuming the third Cav reserve is not in the bottom 10 cards of his deck.
Yeah, that is a fair assumption. Oh, it's too late now, Crow. You just have to flip it.
Did Crow bid 5?
Oh my god, Crow! Oh my god, Crow lost off of bidding 3 and then changed it to 1. I'm confused.
What? What?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
This is the end we deserve.
I don't know if maybe
The
Crow.
greed.
I don't know if
greed
maybe
bid.
Crow bid 1, and he thought he bid 1, but it was a 3 maybe, or if he's just actual cheating and going back to 1.
No.
Or...
Yeah, I think Travis is right that Crow was still deciding and Tretch just flipped.
Oh, that could be very well as a thing as also. The bonsai seems unnecessary here, but I guess it's perfectly fine.
Oh, they let him drop the bid to 1. So we're very very generous with the rewinds this game.
All right, now routing the Kaizen home, so he only needs 4 more strength. He doesn't even need the Cav reserves at this point. Though I imagine he's got it. The favor doesn't count if you don't have a guy, but that's actually something that is surprisingly not well known for some reason. So he still has. Oh, he's
There's
asking.
Crow asking.
He still has Yumino to go up to 11 or to go up to 9. So he needs 2 more on top of that if he doesn't have a Cav reserves. So he can still get there. Man, so many greedy plays this game. And
There it
there's the
is.
3rd Cav reserves, and he can bring back whatever he wants at this point. But I can only imagine it'll be Moto Horde plus 2 youths just in case.
There is not a hand size limit to Vivis clone.
Yep, nope.
Well,
Hand
wondering
size
at
limit
home.
does not exist, and it does appear that this game is finally concluding. Unless Treacherous has some really weird conflict card that none of us have ever seen before.
There's Treacherous disconnecting. No GG even.
All right, that was quite the intense game.
Yeah, good job on both players. Very strong defenses. There's a couple weird things that we didn't understand, but we can't see their hands.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Let's see if we can get Crow to show
Yeah,
his
I'm gonna
hand.
ask. Oh, I see 2 routes. I see another Ready for Battle. I see the 4 Greater Glory. Another Born at War. No, he had plenty of cards. Another Fallen in Battle. I feel like he definitely missed some opportunities at some point. But yeah, very intense. Oh man, so we actually have another game coming up right now between Croy and the name I don't know how to pronounce. I think people just call him Choot, maybe. Choot. The Crane Magistrate. So Travis is going to be doing that game. Me and Travis will be casting it. I would like a 5-minute break if they would allow. So I'm gonna hop off here. I'm gonna host Travis, and then we're gonna hopefully get the other game underway.
Sounds good. Thanks for hosting that with me, Shiro.
Yeah, thank you for being there as well.
Yeah, good games to everyone involved.
Let me just figure out how to host.
All right, I'll see you later, Shiro.
See you later, man.